What is going on, people? Welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video I'm going to show you guys how to make chords in FL Studio, more specifically like really pleasing to the ear, nice harmonic sounding melodies that sound, really nice and full. So if you're struggling with chord progressions, or you're just bored of making those like standard trap chords with 3 keys and you move 1 key up and down every now and then this will be the video for you. So hang around to the very end and don't skip any steps, because the chords that you draw in depend on which key that you're using within the scale, and I'll show you all this in the video. And the best part about all of this is that you don't need to know any music theory at all you need to know is how to count. Now that sounds stupid, but again I'll show you how to do that in the video. So we're going to dive into it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Hit the bell so you don't miss out on another tutorial like this one, and yeah, let's just dive into this. So I've just opened up a Nexus channel in FL Studio, and I'm just using this Soft Roads kind of preset. For the kind of vibes that I'm going for with this tutorial. I want to make some like nice R&B kind of chilled chords, so a soft sound will probably sound better if you're making these kind of chords. So all I'm going to do is open up the piano roll, and what I like to start off with is drawing in my scale. Now basically, if you don't know what a scale is, that sort of determines the kind of vibe that you're going to go for with the beat. So again, I'm making some kind of like R&B kind of scale, so I'm going to draw in a harmonic minor scale to begin with. So if you don't know how to do that, click this little down arrow, chords, and then head over to the scale section. I think in the newer versions of FL Studio there's a separate scale section on here, but nonetheless, go to the scale section, choose the scale that you want to use, and just draw that in for a few octaves so you don't lose track of where you're at. And what I'm going to do is just drag these across the whole 8 bar, so I don't have to keep scrolling back and forth. And I'm going to head back into my Nexus channel. I can see all of the keys that I need to play the chords in. Okay. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you don't need to know any music theory to actually, draw these kind of chords in. You just need to be able to count, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So, if I wanted to play the root note in C, which is what I drew the scale in, I draw my first note in C right here. And because it's a white note, this is the most important rule, and because it's a white note, you're going to use this number code, okay? So write these numbers down: 0, 3, 7, 10, 14, okay? I'll explain what those numbers mean in a second, but make sure you remember those numbers for the white keys. So you want to just write down on a little post-it note, white keys hyphen 0, 3, 10, 0, 3, 7, 10, 14. So write those down, pause the video, come back to it, and now I'm going to show you how those numbers work, okay? So for the number code for the white keys, we're going to use 0, 3, 7, 10, 14 scale, okay? And basically all we're going to do is start at 0 and count up these keys, and every time we hit one of those numbers, we're going to draw a key in. And that's sort of as easy as I can explain it. So all we're going to do is start with C, which is 0. Then we're going to just count upwards. So 1, 2, 3. That'll be where the next key goes. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where the next key goes. 8, 9, 10. So the next key goes 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, now that's the full chord. Now I'm going to explain a little trick that makes this sound 10 times better, because when we play this now, it sounds okay. Drop it up an octave. It sounds okay, but to make this sound even better, and just to give it a really sort of nice, chilled, R&B kind of vibe, we're going to knock the root note down by an octave, and you can also duplicate it and knock it down by another octave. So you've got 2 C notes that are an octave and 2 octaves below where the original chord is, okay? And make sure that you don't then draw in another C note in the original chord, okay? I don't know if that makes much sense, but basically when you knock this down an octave, you don't need to replace that C note that was in the original chord, okay? Okay, so when we play it now, it sounds a lot better. You've got that real sort of bass note in the chord. You can maybe add a couple of higher notes over here, so we've got, it just gives it that real sort of chilled R&B kind of vibe. And another thing that you can do with this is you can strum it so it sounds like it's been sort of played, on like a real piano. And how you do that is just hover over the note that you want to sort of strum a little bit. Hover over it, hold shift, and just scroll down a little bit. Hold shift, scroll down, hold shift, scroll down, shift, scroll down. And then when you play it, it gives it that kind of humanized sound to it. So, okay, that's our first chord, okay? Okay, now that's a really nice chord, but by itself, it's not going to give away like a nice kind of R&B kind of vibe. If you just keep playing that same chord, it's not really going to, you know, sort of create a mood, if that makes any sense. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is just draw in another chord, maybe another 2 chords, and just to give it that up down kind of feel, and just sort of, you know, shift the attention up and down when you're listening to the chord progression. This is sort of like a trial and error kind of thing. I'm only doing this because I know sort of how the chords are going to sound when I play them. Now I'm going to draw this next chord in G because I know that that's where I want the vibe of the beat to go. So all I'm going to do is draw my first note in G sharp. Now because this is a sharp note, one of the black notes, the number code is slightly different. Okay, now this is super important. So get your piece of paper out again and write down black notes or sharp notes and write this number code down. It's 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. Okay, 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. Super important that you don't forget that number code. Okay, so for any black key that you're going to use in this chord progression, you need to use that number code instead of the first number code. So white keys is 0, 3, 7, 10, 14. This one 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. Make sure you write this down. Now again, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before, just count up and draw the keys in when we hit that number. So 0 was our root note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay? Now again, if you play this chord by itself, it doesn't sound very nice. Doesn't sound nice at all. It kind of just sort of sounds a bit stagnant. But if you do the same trick that we used in that first chord, it makes it sound 10 times better. Okay, so what you're going to do is knock it down by an octave, duplicate it, knock it down by another octave, maybe give it that strum kind of effect that I showed you a minute ago. And then when we play it this time, a lot nicer. And then when you play both of those chords together, that's when you start to get that kind of chilled R&B kind of vibe to it. Okay, now my ear for this is I want that chord to go even further down on the next chord, which is going to give it sort of like that. Like a real sort of dark, you know, like a real sort of low, you know, harmonic kind of chords. So I'm going to go with the root note of D sharp. Okay, now we're going to apply the same number code that we used in the G sharp chord, which is 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. Again, make sure you've written that down if you haven't already. And we're just going to draw that in and do the same thing. So we're going to find D sharp, which is there, and then we're just going to count up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, drop that root note back down by an octave so we can give that bass note. Add that little strum effect. I think I'm going to stretch that across those 2 bars and then maybe bring it up a little bit here. Okay, so I've added these 2 little notes in at the end just to add sort of like that, you know, upwards kind of vibe back to the first chord. So when we sort of bring those across, okay, so when we sort of bring those chords back and repeat them for the next 4 count, it's going to give it sort of that nice transition sound. So. Okay, and that's pretty much how you'd basically draw those notes in. And again, it's really simple. All you need to remember is that number code. So if you got the white code, remember the number code of 0, 3, 7, 10, 14. Black codes 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. Okay, just make sure you write them down and then you can't go wrong with this. And it does take a little bit of trial and error. You might find that some chords don't match the first chord and they just don't sound, you know, right with the other chord. And in that case, it's just a bit of trial and error. So make sure that you just sort of play around with the chords, you know, does take a little while to get the grasp of, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, just play around with the chords, play around with each key, you know, see what one chord sounds like with another chord and just go from there with it. And again, you don't have to mix up black and white keys, just use the keys that are in the scale that you've drawn in. So if I was just to draw in like a normal major scale, you know, all I'd use is white keys. Again, if you're using minor scale, then you can mix it up a little bit. But again, doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so go and give these a go, guys. Let me know how you guys get on in the comments with this kind of, key scale and the chords, and I just thought it'd be a bit easier to break it down in a number code, because I was the same as you and I'm still the same. I literally just want to get on making beats. I don't want to start, learning, tons of music theory and all the complicated, ways of writing music and all that kind of stuff. So I thought this would just be a really easy way for you guys to understand how to achieve this kind of sound. Give this one a go, guys. Let me know how you get on with it. If you enjoyed this video and you kind of, find a little bit of value from it, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you hit the notification bell as well, because I'll drop a few more tutorials like this in the future. And yeah, that's all for today. Let's leave it there, and I will see you next time.